Let me describe your life. You woke up this morning in a house most people would kill for.
You have a career, maybe even a title that took years to earn. You've checked the boxes, done the work, outrun the version of yourself that had nothing.
And yet, somewhere between the alarm and the first meeting, there's this feeling. It's not sadness. You're not depressed. It's more like static, like you're running a machine at full capacity and getting nothing out of it.
Like you've won the game and discovered the trophy is hollow. That feeling has a name, and a man who ruled the known world felt it too.
His name was Marcus Aurelius, and what he wrote about it, in private, never intending it to be published, might be the most honest document ever written by a powerful man.
The year is 17 AD. Marcus Aurelius is arguably the most powerful man alive, emperor of Rome, commander of the greatest military force in human history.
A philosopher, a leader universally described by his contemporaries as good. He has everything. And every night, before bed, he opens a journal. He never calls it a journal. He calls it Meditations. But in Greek, the title is closer to himself. These are private notes, arguments he's having with himself, reminders to stay on the path, evidence that even at the top, the static was deafening. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
Sounds like a motivational poster, right? Frame it, put it on your wall. But here's what nobody tells you about that line. He didn't write it from a place of mastery. He wrote it because he was losing the argument with himself. Because the outside events, the wars, the betrayals, the dying sun, the crumbling empire, were winning. This wasn't a man dispensing wisdom from a mountaintop. This was a man white-knuckling it through the same emptiness you feel on a Tuesday morning.
And that changes everything about how you read him. Because most men who feel what you feel, that quiet hollow in the chest, they think they're broken. They think everyone else figured something out that they missed. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world. He had figured it out by every external measure. And he was writing desperate notes to himself in the dark. So, let's talk about why. Marcus identified something he called the second arrow. The first arrow is pain, the loss, the failure, the gap between where you are and where you thought you'd be by now. The second arrow, and this is the one that kills high-achieving men, is the story you tell about that pain. You hit a number, a milestone. You close the deal, land the promotion, finish the build. And for about 72 hours, it feels like something. Then it evaporates, and the second arrow hits, "What's wrong with me? Why isn't this enough? I worked for years for this moment and I feel nothing." That story, that shame on top of the emptiness, that's what hollows men out. Marcus wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Now, and stay with me here, I don't want you to hear that as a platitude, because most men hear it's all within yourself and think, great, so I just need to think positively. That's not what he meant. What he meant was this: you have been chasing relief and calling it purpose. You built the career to relieve the anxiety of having nothing. You hit the body goals to relieve the fear of being weak. You bought the house to relieve the memory of scarcity. None of those things are wrong, but relief isn't the same as meaning. And your nervous system knows the difference, even when your mind doesn't. Here's the trap that catches every driven man. You are wired for the pursuit, not the arrival. The hunt gives you identity, purpose, brotherhood, a reason to get up. The arrival gives you silence. And in that silence, every question you've been outrunning catches up. Who am I if I'm not achieving something? Does any of this mean anything? Is this it? Marcus called this the tyranny of desire fulfilled. You wanted the thing, you got the thing, and the wanting, which was actually holding you together, disappeared. What remained was just you.
sitting in a quiet room, wondering why the room doesn't feel like a reward.
So here's where most self-help content would pivot to a 5-step framework: morning routines, journaling prompts, cold plunges. I'm not going to do that.
Because Marcus Aurelius didn't solve this with a routine. He solved it, or at least he survived it, with a reframe so radical it's almost violent. He called it memento mori.
Remember that you will die. I know, you've heard this before, skull tattoos and carpe diem and YOLO bumper stickers, but Marcus didn't use death as a reason to go party.
He used death as a clarifying knife. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live."
And then, more brutally, confine yourself to the present. Not the legacy, not the next level, not the version of you that finally has it figured out. Right now.
Here's what this actually means in practice. Most high-achieving men are living in one of two time zones. They're either in the past, replaying the climb, the struggle, the origin story they need to keep telling to know who they are.
Or they're in the future, always calculating the next move, the next milestone, the thing that will finally make the static stop. Marcus was ruthless about both.
He wrote to himself, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not tomorrow, not after the next deal. Be one. Now."
The emptiness you feel? It's not a malfunction. It's your soul speaking the only language it knows when you've been ignoring it.
It's telling you that you've been building a life for an audience, and you forgot to ask if you actually wanted to live in it.
Marcus didn't write meditations to publish them. He wrote them because he needed to hear himself think. And that act, that radical honesty with himself, alone, in private, was the only thing that kept him functional.
So let me give you the actual Marcus Aurelius prescription. Not 5 habits, 3 questions. Question 1, am I building this for me or to prove something to someone who probably isn't watching?
Most men are still building for a father who died, a woman who left, a version of themselves that got laughed at in 3rd grade. The achievement is real. The audience is a ghost.
Question 2, if no one ever knew about this, would I still want it? Strip the status. Strip the story. Strip the LinkedIn post.
If the answer is yes, you're living. If the answer is silence, you're performing. Question 3, and this is the hardest one.
What am I afraid I'll have to feel if I stop moving? Because that, right there, is what the static is protecting you from.
The grief, the loss, the thing that happened back then that you turned into fuel. The fuel got you here, but you can't live in a furnace.
Marcus Aurelius spent 20 years at war. He lost children. He was betrayed by men he loved. He watched everything he built start to crack at the edges.
And the journals survive because they're honest, not polished, not performative, honest. He writes in one entry, "Today I escaped from all circumstances that beset me, or rather, I cast them out. They were nothing external, all inside me, all my own perspectives."
He's not saying life is great. He's saying the cage is in here, and I am the only one with the key.
You are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not someone who has everything and deserves to feel nothing.
You are a man who was told that arrival was the destination, and you arrived and discovered that nobody told you what comes next.
What comes next is the harder work, not building more, not achieving louder, going inward, toward the questions that scare you, toward the silence you've been running from, toward the version of yourself that exists when there's nothing left to prove.
Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and wrote himself notes in the dark because that's what it took to stay human. You don't have to rule an empire. You just have to be honest with yourself in the dark.
That's where the emptiness ends. That's where the real life starts. If this hit you somewhere real, Share it with one man who needs to hear it.
Not for the algorithm, for him. And if you're ready to go deeper, the next video is waiting. The Better Man Project.